is a movie, and it started now. Forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right now?
Hello, and welcome to Dad's Dating After Divorce, the only podcast that dares to ask, is your thumb getting more action than your actual dating life? My name is Jude Sandval. I am the founder of The Divorced Advocate, and my co-host is the incomparable Dallas Bluth of Black Box Dating. Dallas. So, you know, my intro always now has a lead in. It's the foreshadowing thing I learned, I think, sophomore year in English lit class. But today we're going to be breaking down porn and masturbation, talking a little bit about how it can sabotage your dad vibe and kill your confidence. So we're going to go through some of the data, the post-nut reality checks, and a roadmap for dads getting their edge back. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, this is such a potent topic. Porn, masturbation, all of that it's incredibly potent, and it's not something that really gets talked about nearly as much as its importance deserves.
I agree with that 100%. And as commonplace as it has become, and as I don't want to say socially acceptable, but it's socially acceptable. It is, I guess, socially acceptable is I guess you could say it. It's at least become less taboo. I don't want to say that it's become socially acceptable, but as much as it has, and as much as it's been out there, having these conversations has not kept up with that, which is why you and I said, okay, you know, we need to talk about this, because in general it has impact, but specifically for divorced dads. And so laying the groundwork, most divorced dads post-divorce, once the dust settles and you're on that parenting time schedule and you don't have the kids, is when that loneliness really starts to hit, the empty house. And then you're thinking about dating, but as we both know, and everybody listening, it's a whole different ball game out there now that you're however many years past the beginning of your dating life. And so what happens is this is kind of a comfort trap, right? It becomes a very low effort way to satisfy something that is more complex and will and does, as we talk about every week, take a lot more work in creating real intimacy and dating. And so what I'd like to start talking about is just this idea of the fact that it might feel like a quote unquote harmless release, right? But in actuality, it's an energetic drain that can impact. It can be an energetic drain. And let me just say that it can, right? Like, we're not saying definitively on all of this stuff. Like, it's like anything else that you're utilizing or you're doing in your life. If it's in excess, then it becomes something that can be this. So I just want to preface it with that we're not shaming, that we're not saying anything about you that's bad or anybody that's, doing or using. Okay. We're not passing judgment. We're just talking about this in the context of how it's impacting you as a dad post-divorce in your dating life. So it will, it can and will, depending on how you're using or what you're doing, impact your vibe when you're sitting across from a woman on a Saturday night. So let's just lead in with that there are implications around it.
Absolutely. So I put pornography in the same bucket as alcohol, drugs, video games, and there's probably some other items, but it's a very potent thing, and it's very easy to get sucked into. None of them are inherently bad or evil or wrong, in my opinion. Just to repeat what you said, this isn't a moral issue, but the way you go about using it can significantly shift your energy. If I'm drinking alcohol constantly because it's simply part of my life, that is going to shift and drain my energy. When I go on a date with a woman, she's going to feel it. Same thing if I'm smoking weed all the time and I just have to do that to kind of regulate myself, my energy on the date is going to do the same thing. If I'm playing 6-8 hours of video games during the day, she's going to feel that as well.
Yep.
Pornography, exact same thing, except that I would add to the energy shift the fact that this is a woman, this is a romantic engagement, and the pornography is directly related to that part of my system.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking a little alcohol. I don't think there's anything wrong with smoking a little weed. I don't think there's anything wrong with playing a little of video games. I think they all have their place in a recreational way. I don't think there's anything wrong with watching a little porn. I think they all have their recreational place. The question is it something that you are dependent on and you need, or is it something that you are using with discretion and you're in control of it and not the other way around? It doesn't have control over you.
Right. I like the phrase, are you scrolling or are you strolling, right? Like if it's going to keep you from, if you find yourself that you're scrolling this stuff and it's a substitute for strolling, which is out there like talking and meeting women and cultivating relationships and maybe just not even in personal relationships or not just romantic relationships, but relationships in general, then you got to pay attention because there's a, so let's talk about the science behind this first. And there's hard science now that we understand. And the first is that it is dopamine flooding. So just like some of the other things you described, particularly video games, on those other things, porn triggers dopamine spikes, and it does it at a rate much higher than other things in life. So some of those things, other things you described, yes, that does it, but porn does it at, and they say a rate of 250% or more higher than natural sex. Okay. Yep. So this causes a problem because number one, your brain does not differentiate between the fake sex with porn and real sex. Right. So that number one should concern you guys.
Yeah. Your brain doesn't differentiate it, but your body will know the difference, or I should say your body will experience the effects of it very differently. When you're watching porn, there is no connection. So all you're getting is that super hard dopamine hit.
Yeah. When
you're having sex with a woman, there are a lot of other chemicals that are also taking place. Oxytocin is there, the connection, which I don't remember all the studies on this. I'm not an expert on the physiology and all the hormones, but I do know that the oxytocin that accompanies sexual contact with a person helps to regulate that dopamine and bring it into it helps the body synthesize it in a healthier, more balanced way.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing is there's healthy dopamine and there's unhealthy dopamine. Healthy dopamine is necessary for our survival. It's a necessary part of our system. But dopamine is healthiest when it comes at the result after we have made an effort to do something. Right. Once you've worked for something, you've broken through, and then you get that dopamine hit, that's well earned and it feels good and it's balanced in your body. There is nothing we are working through when we're scrolling online to find porn to look at. There's no challenge whatsoever. When you remove that challenge and you're just taking the quick hit of the dopamine, that's like eating a donut and thinking it's food. It's not. It's just a treat, and it's just hitting those dopamine levels. That's all that it's doing. When we're dating with live people and also just non-romantic social interactions, we have to make the effort. We have to work through conflict. We have to be able to communicate. We have to get out of our pajamas and take a shower in order to go and connect. All of those things help to regulate the dopamine in ways that watching porn simply doesn't.
Right. And the other thing that this does when you are doing the scrolling is it desensitizes you. And that becomes then, and why that is a problem then is that gets hardwired into your physiology, into your brain, right? So then your arousal templates, if you will, then get skewed, right? So then that rewires your idea of what's attractive to be different than what you're finding in real life, and then you start doing this comparison thing, and literally, guys, if you have not read about this, the neural pathways in your brain get rewired, and so that what I'm saying is that arousal template that you create gets changed in your brain to go through a different path. And then that disrupts your ability then to do what Dallas was talking about, which is to regulate yourself in a normal and healthy way, which is you go out, you talk to somebody, there's a risk reward that goes, there's an effort, like there's all this stuff, and then you get that. That's part of the problem that we're having with our kiddos these days on screens and social media, that they're finding that their brains are literally getting rewired and they're getting stunted because of these quick dopamine hits that they're getting through social media and whatnot. So it's the same concept that you might be talking to your kids about, or that you're experiencing with your kids, and they're taking their phones away in schools, et cetera now. So it has a problem. It has serious implications.
Huge. Yeah. You build up a resistance and tolerance for the stimulation when you do it often. It's very similar to alcohol. If I drink every day, I have to drink more to be able to get the effects of the alcohol to hit me. Same thing with the porn. First time you watch porn, wow, like it's super potent. But if you do it every day for weeks, that alone is going to make it so that you are desensitized and you have to dig deeper. And to your point, that rewires your brain and reprograms you. And it is hard work to rewire your brain back the other way. It's like getting seriously overweight and then going after the gym to work it off. You have to be at that deficit, that whole time. It is a mean price to pay.
Yeah, and there's something called porn-induced erectile dysfunction. So it's and this is a real thing, guys, that it gets to the point where you can't get it up anymore because you have desensitized yourself and created those neural pathways that are leading to your inability then to actually have intercourse in real life. And so this is a real problem, guys.
Which is such a paradox, because most of the ads around porn have to do with erectile dysfunction. So it's like they're creating the problem that they are then selling ads for a solution for. It's really a sick little twisted circle they've got there.
Yeah, and again, so I do want to scare you a little bit about it. I think it's important to have a healthy fear of anything like alcohol or drugs or anything else that you're going to start using. I don't think that we talk about this enough and the use of it enough in our society, that there is a healthy fear and understanding of what it means to use it. There's another thing. So this I didn't know until I was researching for this episode, Dallas, is there's something called hypofrontality. And this is just some research that came out last year. And what that is that they're finding is that it's the shrinking or weakening of the prefrontal cortex through the use. And so what it does is, and so if you don't know, guys, the prefrontal cortex that governs your willpower and decision making. And so what happens is the chronic use erodes your ability to stay the course when dating gets tough, or when the relationship, which inevitably is going to have challenges and bumps, your prefrontal cortex has decreased and your ability to handle that has decreased. And then it makes it harder, if not impossible, for you to do. And then you can imagine the challenges that you have. So it actually goes one step further. If you can avoid they call it PIED, PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction. If you can avoid being PIED, if you can avoid being PIED, then you still have potential of this shrinking of your prefrontal cortex that is going to cause problems in the relationship as well. I know. Wow. Like when we were talking about doing this last night, I was like, okay, yeah, this will be a good topic. And, we can have a few jokes in this. And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm looking at some of this research in this. And I'm like, this is a little bit more serious than probably we were thinking about. But
it is. So I come from a programming and web development background. I'm not sure what the current statistics are, but not too long ago, the statistics I was seeing was anywhere between 40 to 60% of all web traffic is pornography.
Wow. Okay.
All web traffic. I don't know if we realize how much that is. And again, these numbers might be a little out of date. Streaming has gone up in different areas, so it may have changed a bit. But the idea that we have so much content that nobody shares, no one talks about, this is like a herd of elephants in the room, taking up half the room. This is something that is way more present than anybody gives acknowledgement to, and it's really a struggle. Yeah. So that's the scientific background. So this is the stuff that's happening to you physiologically when you're utilizing this. Okay. So let's talk now about like what we talked about in the beginning, the energetic drain or kind of the vibe and the physical impact of using this excessively. The first is there's something called a prolactin spike. There's a refractory period after you release, which suppresses. Was that the punctuation period, or was that
refractory? refractory, refractory portion. And this is when the body releases prolactin, which suppresses dopamine and testosterone. Okay, testosterone. So this is the biological off switch. And so what happens is if you're doing this regularly or excessively, then essentially what you're doing is you're creating a chronic state of passivity, right? Because it becomes, because then that switches on again. So I guess there is a little bit of science. I mean, the vibe part of it, there is science behind it, but the vibe part is, your body floods this prolactin spike, and then you become passive, which, like, okay, guys, like that's why guys are usually like relaxed, fall asleep after sex and whatnot. That's the whole mindset around it. But what you're doing is that you're self-inducing this and then creating a constant state of satisfied passivity.
Yeah. And again, there's a very important piece missing. Your whole system shuts down. You go into relaxed, chilled, fall asleep mode. It's very different if you're by yourself versus laying next to a woman that you just had sex with.
Right.
There's a huge connection piece that's going to change. There is no pillow talk with the screen after you watch porn and you ejaculate. Like there's no sharing moment, but pillow talk is a thing, and men open up and share in different kinds of ways that they do with a woman, post ejaculation that they never do. Like these are all parts that really round out the experience and make it and help integrate it to make it a balanced cocktail of your experience. And that pillow talk, well, that's stuff that comes out when the testosterone shifts down, and we don't have to be hard charging. We don't have to prove anything. We don't have to be showing super strong leadership skills. And women like that. They'll get to see our more vulnerable side. We get none of that when we're doing it by ourselves with porn. Like that's completely removed. Our bodies weren't designed to do it this way. They simply weren't.
Right. And then we lose that hunt energy, right? If we're in this constant state of satisfied passivity, then we're not going to be strolling, right? We're not going to be out there. We're not going to be making the efforts to go out, initiate cold approach or whatever else. And so that's that kind of loss of your vibe, if you will.
Yeah, you're gonna lose your vitality as a man. You're going to lose, the masculine trait. Testosterone is the masculine hormone. And with decreasing amounts of that, you're just going to dig the hole deeper because you're going to be less attractive to women. But even more important, that you're going to be less attractive to yourself.
Yeah.
Like pretty much no guy after watching porn ejaculates goes, yeah, I feel like a man right
I won.
now. Like, no guy feels like that because we all know it's bullshit. We all know that this is a fantasy place. And, these are all shortcuts that didn't actually do anything.
Yeah. So you said a word, vitality. And I think that is an important word because what we're comparing here is a difference between sexual vitality and sexual release. Okay, what you're doing by using it is just a sexual release, but you're not creating sexual vitality, which is what you want to be creating long term in not only your life, but in being able to attract and retain somebody in a romantic relationship.
Yeah, I completely agree. And release is something that all men need. The question is that release being received by someone, by a woman, in a way that it's actually it's promoting and growing the connection and the relationship with each other? Or is that release really actually just waste? And a lot of times when you're watching porn, it's not so much that you need a release, it's that you're attached to the pleasure. Those are two very different experiences. All men experience, the drops in the bucket, it builds up, you need the release sexually. Pretty much all men experience that. But a lot of times when we're watching porn, it's not because we need that release because we've been out working, doing other things, and it's just built up. It's that we're reaching for a pleasurable experience that we had before. And we're actually digging deeper when there's no buildup happening inside of us.
Yeah, right. Which leads to the intro, which is if you find yourself doing this because you're lonely or you're bored or you're trying to repress something else that's coming up, another feeling, that is a red flag, as opposed to what Dal said. Like we just know we're designed to have to release, right? That's just the way that we were designed as men. So that's important. So pay attention to that, guys. This goes back to what we always talk about, which is knowing, doing the inner work, understanding yourself, your mental, emotional state, etc. This is also part of that. I also wanted to touch on something else. You talked about, well, like no guy finishes and is like, oh yeah, that was a great conquest or whatever,
accomplished something
or whatever. Yeah. And so this is kind of it's kind of a shame loop that happens. And what I call it is it feels it's post nut clarity that feels like post nut depression, right? The internal shame radiates outward, and this is gonna translate. Women are gonna pick up on this because they can sense a lack of presence or like a hollow energy in you. And so if you don't have that sexual vitality that we're talking about, and then you're doing this, this is going to impact that. This is another way that it's going to impact your vibe.
Yeah. You have to bring energy to the table where you feel good about yourself. You're proud of yourself. You have enjoyed accomplishments that you had to struggle to get to. If you're caught in a shame loop or a guilt loop, first of all, you're kind of focusing most of your attention on yourself when you're doing that. So you're not really radiating a lot of attention towards the woman that she's looking for. Yeah, that energy is completely different. That said, it's incredibly hard to work your way out of those loops when you get caught into them. The darkness, and the technology makes it so easy. We mentioned this when we were talking about it. We talked about childhood experiences. I remember in high school, there was a VHS cassette going around, and that was it. That was the totality of the porn available. That and some magazines was like the totality of the porn.
Was all we had. Yeah, that was it.
And it's kind of hard to overdo it with one VHS cassette. It's kind of hard to overdo it with a stack of magazines that you've seen. But now that there is literally, an endless amount of smut online that you can look at and consume and scroll and categorize and filter and save to your computer and obsess over. It's like there is no exhausting it. I don't know how the younger generation deals with this, and I don't think a lot of them are dealing with it very well yet. No. I don't think we found the solution, but it's it's sort of like when cigarettes first came out. We didn't realize all the health effects. Gin alley. We didn't realize back in the 1600s in England how bad alcohol was. We were giving it to babies,
right?
And the internet's coming around. It still isn't that old. Like. True. 25, 30 years old, something like that. We're still trying to get a handle on how to deal, with these, with these amounts. But the fact that it is, so easy to access and basically costs nothing.
Yep.
It is so easy to slip into one of these downward spirals where we feel guilty, we feel shameful, we feel blah. According to the research that you found, our prefrontal cortex is shrinking. That is. And then our dicks aren't working the way we want them to anymore. I mean, this is a really, really hard, slippery slope to go down. And for me, I like to bring it back to really simple principles. When we're watching porn, we're in a very passive role. And the solution to this is the hard opposite, which is you must be proactive.
Yeah.
And you don't get paid up on the front end. You get paid on the back end. It's like going to the gym. Nobody really likes going to the gym. Everybody likes the results and the feeling after going to the gym.
Yeah.
And trying to deal with porn is just one of those sort of things.
Right. But unfortunately, it's our society. The gym thing is a great analogy because right now we've got people just taking drugs to lose weight. So they're doing absolutely nothing to better their bodies. And well, you shouldn't say that. They're doing something to better their bodies, but it's not it's the dopamine, it's the putting in. So there's a saying, what is hard lasts long, and what lasts long is, or wait, no, I forgot it. I'll remember it. But
long and hard. That's all I'm hearing.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks, Dallas. Yeah. Well, but essentially, what takes time, what is meaningful and is lasting, is going to take time, and what is not going to take time. So if you're not putting in the effort to it, then it's just not going to happen. So we see that with the Ozempic and in our working out and with our relationships. You talked about the younger generation, how they're handling it. They're actually not. Studies are showing that they're not having sex at the same rate that other generations were having sex. And they're like, why is this happening? Well, duh. What we're talking about it right now.
Yeah. I mean, if I was, if I was a teenager, entering puberty, and then I'm in my 20s, and porn has been around me on my phone this entire time. And I have the choice between trying to make myself attractive and respectable, trying to, convince a girl that I'm worth some attention, and then go through it all. And then the sex is maybe good, maybe not. It's kind of weird. There's all these complex things. There's all this emotional attachment that comes afterwards, and then there's the feelings, and then there's like all this stuff. Or I could just pull out my phone and watch some videos.
Right.
Like why? Like from a simplistic level, like why would I ever choose the harder path of trying to engage with a woman? And that's why, I don't remember what the statistics are, but I mean, it's approaching half of men, I believe, in their mid to, in their 20s, early to late 20s, are just not having sex. They're just not interested in it altogether.
Right.
Well, it's because, and for boys, so for guys, the challenges online are porn and video games. Those are the challenges. For women, it's social media.
Yeah.
And it's like two different tracks, but it's about the same level of struggle that we have to do to free ourselves from it. And I'm going to come back to what I said at the beginning, because I think this is the bootstrap that we have to hold on to. I know it was for me. I have to ask myself, am I using this thing, or is this thing using me?
Yep.
When I'm caught in one of those loops, when I've got the shame going on, and it could be anything. It could be, donuts, fast food, porn, alcohol, whatever it is, when I ask myself, has this thing got me by the scruff of the neck and it's pulling me down, or do I have this thing in control and I'm using it the way that I want to? And we can justify that. I mean, that, everybody's got to be honest with themselves. But for me, that is the basic question that I ask myself with any of these items. And I ask it to myself on a daily basis with all the potentially indulgent experiences a human can have. Mm-hmm. And the word that comes to mind every single time is discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline is the differentiator. And this is one of the core components of the coaching that I do. All masculinity, every single drop of masculinity that we have in ourselves as men comes from exercising discipline. Mm-hmm. You do not get discipline any other way. Think about anything that makes you feel like a man. It required you exercising discipline.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you want to feel like a man? Or do you want to allow all of these, temptation isn't the good word, but all of these easy
distractions,
distractions, easy pleasures. If you want all these things that don't take any discipline, that don't take any effort, if you want them to overrun you, that's the choice you're making. Do you exercise discipline? And the term I use is forged in discipline. Masculinity is forged in the crucible of discipline.
Right.
And I know every time that I choose, I'm like, nope, not gonna have that, that Wendy's burger. I'm not gonna, donuts seem to be the thing lately. I'm not gonna pick up that donut on the way home, or nope, I'm not gonna just jerk off to watching some porn. Because that's not going to forge any masculinity in me through discipline.
Right. And I like the word distraction, because if we are in our masculine nature, we're on task, right? We are on task, and we have a mission, and we're aimed towards that mission. And so if anything is distracting us from that mission, then that's what, that then is taking us away from creating the life that we want to create as a masculine man. And then we're off track. Right. So if you can think of it that way, guys, but that also takes you really being honest, like you said, Dallas, about, okay, well, have I firstly done the work in determining what am I on mission about? What is my family? What is it? Like, how are you on mission? And within that mission, what is it that I want? Do I want a connection with a woman, or am I going to be using this and then it's going to hijack this and distract me into objectifying her, because my whole system got completely hijacked, and now I can't show up on a date without getting distracted by whatever thoughts or how whatever it is going through my mind. I can't keep eye contact with her. I can't stay focused. I can't have a conversation. I can't lead the date. All of the stuff that you talk about and how to show up, Dallas, because I got distracted, because I've been doing this other thing for so long. It will have an impact. And if you actually do get past the pied and all that other stuff, it actually has been shown that you will have a lower satisfaction in your relationships, because of all of those factors that we talked about, those physiological factors.
Yeah. And you're comparing the relationship to a fantasy at that point.
Right.
You're comparing it, you're comparing apples and oranges, and only the oranges aren't real.
Right.
Yeah. That is, it is so difficult in that way. When you were saying staying on mission, the thing that came to mind was, we've all had to make like a 10, 12-hour drive somewhere, in a day, a long-term thing. And if you think about all of the easy choices you can make when you have to do that drive, I'm not going to get up early, and get I'm not going to pack the car the night before. I'm not going to get up early, and okay, well, we're finally 9:30, 10 o'clock, we're getting on the road, and then you're on the road, and it's well, do you get distracted along the way? Let's hang out here, or let's check that out. It's you're never going to get where you're trying to go if right. That's how you're doing it. You can't let yourself pull over, take a nap, do this, do that. If you do, it'll turn into a 3-day trip. Like it just will.
Right.
You have to get up and stay on task and not let yourself get sidetracked.
Yeah, that's such an old school example, Dallas, because I don't know that people do these long road trips like we used to do when we were young. But that's always the thing. That's like National Lampoon's Vacation, right? The dad's always like focused on we got to get there. We got to stop here. It's going to take us this long to get here. And then we're going to stop for 30 minutes and have a break. And then we're going to get going for another. And then we got to get gas here. And the gas is cheap. Like that's the dad. That's the masculine mentality, right? And then
it is.
Like I remember a road trip when we were younger. Like my mom had all these like places to stop on the way. We were doing a hellish spring break road trip for a week from Chicago to Florida and back, like awful. And she had like the Cabbage Patch, the place to stop and all these other places. It's like my dad's like, let's get to the beach, right? And my mom's like, let's stop and look at the Cabbage Patches, like kids. It's like, what the hell? So that's just a total that's a great analogy.
Yeah, it's what came to mind, and yeah, and it does come from the days where porn was on VHS cassettes and magazines. Maybe it is a little dated, but we mentioned this in an episode a while back. It was things like that build character. Discipline is what builds character, and character is sexy. You and I were actually talking about cowboy hats the other night and how people treat you differently. And there's something about when you put on a cowboy hat that people immediately treat you just a little differently because they kind of assume you have character. Like they assume you have an internal discipline, and when you think about the guy that watches a lot of porn all day, I mean, talk about the other end of the spectrum from a cowboy. Yeah. You can't procrastinate. You can't put things off. You can't, like lounge around and then expect things to work. Like the entire industry will fall into shambles if you do that. The internal fortitude and structure and masculine frame that is what's really being attacked when you are watching a lot of porn, when you're going back to it regularly, is your masculinity, your frame, your discipline, your fire, your sense of self-pride and self-worth. And and maybe this is one of the things that I remind my clients of all the time, is that men's sexual energy, the messaging around men's sexual energy is not positive. Yeah. It's dirty, it's negative, it's cheap, it's easy, it's, all of these things. It's not. Men's sexual energy is incredibly potent, creative, powerful, and beautiful and precious. Mm-hmm. And most men don't have a relationship with their own sexual energy that embodies those feelings. Yeah. When I come to a date and there's the question of whether or not we're going to be in bed together, I don't see her sexuality as precious and mine is just hungry. My energy sexually is just as precious as hers is. It just has a different vibe to it. Right. And when I see it that way, boy, does her reaction to me completely change. I think one of the steps that men really have to be able to, wrestle this beast of pornography to the ground is to realize that their sexual energy is precious and it needs to be protected the same way that women's sexual energy is precious and needs to be protected. Yeah. The minute we start seeing our sexual energy that way, the idea of scrolling porn and jerking off constantly is like, why are you doing this to such a precious resource? Yeah. In a lot of ways, that identity, I think, is one of the biggest protectors we have available to us. Yeah, and that's really hard for divorced dads sometimes because their whole persona, everything has come crumbling down. However, that makes it a really great opportunity to rebuild it into something that you want and something that is positive. And all the things that Dallas described, because of being powerful, about being amazing, about being a driver. I mean, we've seen this throughout history, men utilizing their sexual energy and their masculine energy.
the challenge we have in our modern society, particularly here in Western developed cultures, is that it's diminished. That whole not just the men's sexual energy, but men's masculinity in general is being diminished. But I can assure you guys, and I think Dallas will attest to this too, is once you can do that rebuilding, once you can get to that point and you can have that mindset that Dallas is describing, and you start to see the reaction from women on it, you're like, oh yeah, this is pretty freaking awesome, man. Like where was this before? And it was inside of you the whole time, and you had it the whole time. It was just, conditioned out or like whatever it was. But once, distracted, whatever it was, guys, it is awesome. So all of this to say, and all of our warnings about this to say, is that deep inside of you is this amazing, if you haven't already touched on it or tapped it, or maybe you have a little bit, is this amazing masculine nature and this amazing sexual energy that can just be tremendous and a tremendous driver in your life for lots of great things, relationships and everything else, and family that you can tap into, that you can build post-divorce. Now, it's going to take work. It's going to take not being distracted, like you said, but it's there.
Yeah. Have you read the book Comfort Crisis?
No, I haven't.
That is a really good book. I think it's particularly very good for men.
Okay.
The basic premise of the book, I read it last year, is that we live in a society that is constantly prioritizing our comfort. Mm-hmm. And humans are not designed to be in comfort all the time. We're actually designed to deal with discomfort and to deal with struggles.
Right.
Without struggles, we actually really don't do so well. And a prime example of this is our food supply as it exists today. 100 years ago, and for the rest of society, for the rest of human history, we had to work really hard and proactively. We had to plant seeds for food that's not going to show up for another 3 or 4 months. We had to do all of that. That was very uncomfortable to do. And now, well, you can show up, at the blink of it. Well, you don't even have to show up. You just use Grubhub, and whatever tastes you want just appear at your door. And we've gone from a healthy relationship of food, which involves struggle and confrontation and effort, and then satisfaction and thriving, to fast food, which is just immediate consumption without any of that effort that we had. Yeah. And we're being told in all the messaging that the second one is right. We're always supposed to feel comfortable. We're always supposed to feel satiated. Yeah. And that messaging, that's the real seductive, toxic, bullshit message that we have to remember. And I'm surprised we haven't come up with this terminology, but I'm going to throw it out there. We used to have just sex, and now porn is fast sex. Just like you have food and fast food, you have sex and fast sex. Yep. It's immediate delivery, no cost, no effort, and you get the results of fast sex give you the results that fast food gives you, which is not a healthy result.
Yep. Yeah. So you mentioned that book. There was an experiment done, I think in the 50s or 60s. I think it's called the Calhoun experiment with mice. And what they created is they created the mouse utopia, and it exploded, right? They reproduced, and they had perfect, like they had no predators. They had the perfect environment, perfect temperature, all the food they wanted, the comforts they had. And the population exploded until they got too comfortable. And then some of the male mice just started to prune themselves and preen themselves and remove themselves really from that hunt of reproducing. And then the females did that too. And eventually it just died up. And this was under the perfect circumstances. And so that's the same concept that you're talking about, which is the comfort trap. And I think, you guys might think we're getting away from what we're talking about here, but the point being is what's going to lead to my next thing which is a challenge for you guys to confront this discomfort that you're dealing with in this, in trying to maybe let's put out a 30-day fast from this. Fasting is great. Fasting from food is great. Fasting from porn would be great. Reset your body. That's going to be hard, but that's going to be something that is going to be a positive for you to do. And then once you've done that, then you can start working towards more positive things that are challenging. Yes, it's going to be more challenging than to continue to stop to do that or utilize it in a way that is a healthy release, and then go talk to women. and then go try to engage in warm interactions with women, and then get a date, and then show up and go on a date in a good manner, and then go down that path, right? That's going to be much more difficult. So reclaim like your personal CEO, guys. Like that might be hard, but it's going to be beneficial.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you in control, and are you using this thing judiciously and strategically, or is this thing using you? Part of my personal journey, I went an entire year with watching zero porn of any kind. No videos, no pictures, no images. I simply didn't. I was surprised actually it wasn't quite as difficult as I thought it would be. And when I started, I didn't have I thought it was a one-way switch. I'm just not watching any more porn. And after about a year, I realized that something was creeping up into my mind, and I was wondering, I felt like I was holding my breath. And I thought, this doesn't quite feel right. I don't like rigid, dogmatic rules of never watch porn. That to me just doesn't feel good. It's like, never drink alcohol. It's evil. I don't like that. Right. And so I decided to break it after a year, because I wanted to know that I wasn't just holding my breath trying to follow a rule. I wanted to know that I was in control of the process. Yeah. So I went back to it, and I was coming from a year of porn abstinence. I don't know if you call it that, but a year of not seeing it. And then when I used it, I was like, okay, wow, this is really potent stuff. Like I had forgotten how strong it was. But it was porn was my bitch, not the other way around. Yeah. Porn did not have me by the scruff of the neck. It wasn't controlling it. I used it when I felt the need for the release, because I did realize in that year, like men are very visual, and without that visual component, there's a certain amount of arousal and all of that like masturbating without it, like it didn't provide the same level of release. And I realized that the porn was useful in that sense to help really provide the release. Yeah. But again, the real trick is, and I hope the listeners here don't mind me, sharing such a personal side of my life, but it was really a wake up call to me to realize that porn is just like alcohol. I choose how much I'm going to consume, how often, and particularly for what reason. It's the end of the week. I want to unwind and my brain is still going. I need the release mentally. And having a couple drinks with a buddy can really do things that, I'm sorry, all of the mindful meditation in the world ain't going to do the same way. Yeah, it's just not. Right.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And so part of what I'm hearing you describe then, if I want to correlate it to the scientific part, is you rewired your body and you regrew your prefrontal cortex. So it's a muscle. So it's basically a muscle. So your prefrontal cortex got back online. You rewired your neural pathways to come back to another way. And, you mentioned that I've done fasting from food before, and I've fasted for up to 30 days. And people are like, oh my God, you've not eaten food in 30 days. You would be amazed that after you do something like that, and now I didn't go just do a 30-day fast off the bat. I worked my way up to it. If there, a day, 3 days, a 7-day, a 14-day, and the third, like same thing. You'd be amazed, guys, when you have this discipline around something, and then you do rewire your body to think now I can, I think about it, and I just did a 21-day one. I do a 21-day one at the beginning of every year in January. Like when I think about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, like you will be amazed the stuff you'll be able to do, guys, and not just around sex, not just around your relationships with your kids, your work, your life. It is absolutely empowering, guys. There's a lot of stuff you can't control now. post-divorce. You've been out of control. It's been a chaotic, difficult, challenging thing. One of the things that you can control now is yourself, your mind and your body.
That's the only thing you can control. In the end, the only thing you can control is yourself.
Absolutely. So take the couple of challenges that we've put out there today, guys.
Let me circle this back a little bit to how this impacts how women respond to you as a man. You know, during that year when I watched no porn and I told women, I haven't watched a single image since that time, there was a level I saw respect in their eyes that I had not seen from anyone else. Because again, there's this whole silent thing that's going on with pornography that nobody talks about, but everybody just sort of knows and accepts that, it's just out there. When I told women, I was like, I haven't done it since then. And, it feels great. I could see that they loved the discipline in me.
Yeah.
And in a similar sense, we're not really talking about masturbation too much in this episode, but in a similar sense, I've asked several women, I said, how do you feel when a man abstains from masturbating or from watching porn? Mm-hmm. And they're like, it is hot. It is so hot to know that a man can do that. Yeah. And, in relationships that I've been in, when I meet somebody, we're having a great connection, and they're like, oh, I can't wait to see you on Friday. And it's like Tuesday or Monday, and I'm like, yeah, me too, and then when we get there and I'm like, by the way, I haven't touched myself, because I've been saving it and I wanted to bring that energy to you. Women find that so incredibly attractive.
Yep.
Now, if I'm doing it specifically for them, I mean, that's hot. But the real basis is I'm doing this because this is, again, precious, beautiful, creative, sexual energy inside myself. And I don't just dump it out like mouthwash in the morning, just to like get it out of my system. I'm like, no, this is precious energy. And I'm going to be judicious about where I release it, how I release it, with whom or by myself that I release it. When I go to a first date with a woman and that is already my mode, oh man, I mean the energetic potency and I'm not purity, it seems like maybe too much of a word, but the energetic cleanliness that you bring to the table, boy, women really love that and are really attracted to it.
Yeah, it's a vitality. We said vitality. I think that's the best word. And they're attracted to it because they are wired to want to see that in a man. They're wired to desire masculinity, guys. So that's that masculinity we're talking about that is buried deep inside of you, that when you are then able to exhibit that in your sexual vitality, and then like Dallas says, then you control it and you only disperse it to and who and when and how you want. Yeah. Man, like they, you're gonna be lined up. They're gonna be like fawning over themselves to get it.
Yeah. And that's what the pickup artists are talking about when they say you're the prize.
Right.
The problem is they're just saying like you just have to convince yourself in your head that you're the prize to see yourself. That's all ego and personality based. That's not discipline and character based.
Yeah.
When you exercise discipline, which is mostly saying, well, it's saying no to the immediate things that would be immediate pleasure and saying yes to the things that are not that comfortable and not giving you immediate pleasure. That's what discipline is. When you do those things, it forges that discipline it forges the masculinity inside of you. Oh man, that is some of the most potent stuff you can bring to the table. And the bar, the standard for this is so low right now in society.
I was going to say,
the bar is just like, it's not even shin high, for the most part.
I was just going to say, if you can show up and you can not be distracted by porn, not be distracted by drugs, not be distracted by alcohol or video games, you're like ahead of 99% of the rest of the men that she's going to meet. So just work on those few things. Don't even worry about fasting for 30 days or no porn like for a year. Like Just focus on those things, and you're going to be that discipline. But it's also going to build discipline for all the rest of the stuff in your life, which is amazing.
Absolutely. Most men are going to approach a first date with a woman. Just sort of the average is, well, either I'm going to get sex with you, or I'm going to go home and watch porn and get sex that way.
Right.
For most men, those are the two options. Like either you're going to put out, or the screen is going to put out. Like one of those two. Yeah. If I approach that table and I'm like, well, look, I'm not looking for anybody to put out. I'm looking for where to invest this beautiful, precious sexual energy inside of myself. Mm-hmm. And if it's not you, I'm going to find somebody else that is the right vessel. Women respond to that in a totally different way. No woman is turned on thinking, well, if I don't put out, he's going to go watch porn. It's like, I'm going to go let the guy watch porn. I don't want to have anything to do with him. Yeah. If I look at this guy and I'm like, well, if I don't connect with him and I'm not ready and available, he's going to go find another top quality candidate because he wants to have the connection with a woman. That is going to be far more attractive to women. And again, very, very few men are showing up that way in their dating lives.
Right. And the key to what you just said is high quality candidate, right? You're the high quality candidate. You're looking for a high quality candidate, and you're not settling for the rest. It's just it's a shift in mindset, guys. So Dallas, this was really good. I just want to commend you on sharing some vulnerable information with us. That is so helpful. I know in just hearing you talk about it, helpful to me, but I know that the guys listening also, it's incredibly helpful and just increases the amount of respect that I have for you and the work that you do, and how much that shows me that you care about those that are listening and those who who you're helping. So I appreciate that. And guys, let's, like, as always, get connected with Dallas. You want to cut this. You want to cut this time frame way down in re-engaging that masculinity and then having a healthy relationship after that. Then get involved with Dallas and his community.
Thank you. I really appreciate those words, dude. And for the single dads at home that are struggling with these feelings, that are struggling with that downward spiral and the vortex and pied and all of these things. Yeah. Isolation is the enemy here. Yeah. We don't thrive. There's a great verse from the Bible that says, like iron on iron, one man sharpens another. Right. We have to be able to work this stuff out with other men, particularly in order to really bring out the best version of ourselves. When we're alone and in isolation, it is so easy to slip into the mud and the muck of it all. And that in itself might be difficult. But Jude, you and I host these once a month. We had our in-person one last night. Yep. We have the online ones, and we trade off between in-person and online. Guys, if you are looking for men to help grab your bootstraps with you and pull you up, come and join us. Yeah, we've been there. It is not pretty, but it can be beautiful when you do the work that needs to be done.
Yeah. And you can find it's a free event that we put on, and Dallas is gracious enough to give us a free hour of his time once a month on that Q&A. And you can find it on our events page at thedivorcedadvocate.com. If you stroll all the way to the bottom, in the footer is the events page. But then also check out blackboxdating.com, because then you've got some paid stuff and you've got your community of guys. You guys meet on an even more regular basis than that. You do field work. Like, I don't know that the guys know that the extent to which you really help them through this stuff and take them to the next level of being able to get into a relationship. Yeah. So check that out.
Field work is magical. It really is. Yeah. When you're in there in the flesh and blood and you're experiencing discipline, it is something else. Dude, thank you for.
And I'm telling you, there's no better guy than him to watch. It's like watching a master chef like putting something together and making all the ingredients. So, fellas, just get involved in the community. Yeah, Dallas, it was awesome.
It was awesome. Thanks, Jude. Talk to you next week.
Your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do?